Next on Investigative Report, Divorce Court, Profit Takers, and the Business of Misery. A good wedding costs $30,000, but so does a good divorce. Long before the I-do's, long before the cake has been cut, and the last guests have left the wedding, divorce attorneys target the annual fact that over 50% of marriages in the United States end in divorce.
Has the business of getting a divorce become a racket for profit? We believe so, which is why we delve into the exploitation of the no-fault divorce, leading to men being fleeced for cash and their children in family courts. The call for nationwide family court reform has led to the rise of the father's rights, men's rights movement, and men going their own way. Now, isn't it ironic that when most couples wed, they are literally surrounded in a room full of friends and family? But when a couple divorces, they stand alone, minus those very same friends and family. Most men report that there is an antipathy in the family court system towards men and a bias towards women. Hello, this is Charles Rivers, and welcome to Investigative Report. In this COVID environment of divorce, we are faced yet again with an unprecedented surge of divorces in America and abroad. Although both sexes express a desire to get married, many men choose not to because they feel they have too much to lose through divorce. The marriage-age male may envision building a home, an income, a future, and children with the wife, only to have it all taken away with the stroke of a pen in divorce court. In today's divorce culture, it benefits the average male more to be single than it does him to be married. Now, on the other hand, it benefits his female counterpart more to be married than it does to be single. But this does not stop her from choosing a divorce 80% of the time. Yet how can this be, you might ask? Because the average male is expected to bring his income to the relationship, a home or the future purchase of one, a car or the future purchase of that car. He's expected to provide a retirement fund and life insurance or actively seek both. And finally, an age-old chore of providing basic stability and protection of the relationship. Yes, even in the year 2021, these things I just named for you are not required of women who join men in marriage, but they are able to provide these things. Since the average woman is considered to be the prize in a relationship, her arrival, even if she does not contribute, is supposed to be seen as a blessing to a man. So it goes without saying that men are miffed about a divorce when the court awards his spouse half of his possessions that she never was responsible for bringing to the table to start with, or perhaps she never helped him attain. I know of many relationships where the wife vehemently resisted their husband's upward growth that provided those same wealth opportunities. When the average married man acts as a woman with the deadbeat spousal mentality in a marriage court system, they do not reward him, but they punish him by directing him to get a job to support the woman who could have easily supported herself before. This double standard alone is the basis of man's largest gripe about marriage and why most men choose not to pay in divorce by playing the divorce lottery game. See, especially when women initiate upwards of, like I said, 80% of divorces in America because they say that they are unhappy. One would absolutely be confused as to why the modern-day woman seeks out marriage for happiness. Could it be from the time she is a toddler that she is indoctrinated into the Cinderella-type romantic view of a life that has no basis in reality? From the first cartoon she is exposed to, she sees the prince or her future husband coming to her rescue from the clutches of the evil witch or to help her escape from the tower. She is indoctrinated into the mindset through romantic movies before she is a preteen and romantic novels long before she reaches adulthood. The goal is to convince her that she would be so much better off and happier if she got married. She does not even take the male she marries into account beyond fulfilling her dreams. There is literally a huge Cinderella wedding industry in America convincing young girls into seeking out and finding the man of their financial dreams to marry. There are wedding planners that orchestrate a relationship between two people to where only one of them is ultimately going to be respected. In short, there is money to be made in carrying out a monetary fantasy until the bloom has fallen off the relationship rose. The average wedding planner ends up making $70,000 to $90,000 a year. Then there are the flower companies that cater to the event. The average cost for wedding flowers ranges from $700 to $2,500. And then there's your wedding cake designer, who can run from $300 into the high thousands. The average well-planned wedding can cost in excess of $30,000. And these made-up costs go on and on and on for a couple that in some cases barely last the duration of happiness. But then there is an even darker side of marriage. A larger divorce culture industry based upon lawyers, courts, and agencies that push these same women into separation with the goal of divorce. They divide up the family and its assets as easily as two children would bag a bag of candy. One for you and one too for me. In this separation scheme, the larger spoils of war, the children are usually awarded to the mother unless the court's opinion she is unfit. But even if the father is rational, whole, and totally fit, this will not guarantee him custody or joint custody of his own children. The basic tenets of the law awarding the children to the parent with the best interest of the child in mind deems a woman unfit in the parameters written for men. The unfit parent definition states that a parent may be deemed unfit if they have been abusive, neglectful, or fail to provide proper care for a child. A parent with a mental disturbance or addiction to drugs or alcohol may also be found to be an unfit parent. This law alone leans heavily in favor of the mother and not in the best interest of the child when it awards custody to the mother who cannot materially take care of her own children, especially in the case that she must lean heavily upon her ex-husband's income that she said she could live without and do without to take care of those very same children. Now I ask you, wouldn't it be just simpler to leave the children in the custody of the man these women fleece for money over struggling to provide for them in some form of reduced capacity? The purveyors of divorce culture peddle the same message to women the wedding industry does in order for them to take the bait. That message being, you'll be so much happier if you do this, if you divorce this guy. But in this case, you will be so much happier if you got out of this marriage and lived your selfish dreams. Before a man can lose his financial material and prodigy with exiting a marriage, they must convince his wife that she is not happy until she takes the bait. And the chief cause of all her unhappiness, the man the wedding industry preached to her was the instrument of all her happiness. The man she once dreamed of meeting, the man she promised to love, honor, and cherish through sickness and health till death do their part. I have briefed you on the cost of marriage. But what are the costs for a good and unexpected divorce? Because a lot of guys don't see it coming. Now, long before child support or alimony is awarded, the attorney fees and court costs for a well-planned divorce can cost upwards of $30,000. These court costs and fees mirror the equivalents of a well-planned wedding. Shocking, right? I told you it's industry. Neither of these costs going in or exiting the marriage can be recouped, nor can the time wasted and anguish achieved from coupling with and having children with a woman who was the wrong person. But most marriages since the 1960s have ended long before the natural demise of the life of the partners. In the year 1969, Governor Ronald Reagan of California made what he later admitted was one of the biggest mistakes of his political career. Seeking to eliminate the strife and deception of often associated with the legal regime of fault-based divorce, Reagan signed the nation's first no-fault divorce bill into California's law. Now, Governor Ronald Reagan himself, at the time was a divorcee. Similar well-intentioned but ultimately bad laws were introduced in many states in the 1970s and early 80s. Today, all states except for New York offer some form of no-fault divorce. But the United States really didn't nationalize no-fault until the country of Australia nationalized it in 1975. In 1975, the no-fault was passed nationwide in Australia first. The law introduced for the first time no-fault divorce. It also established a federal court to deal with family issues. Other countries would not only follow suit, but separate marriage law from regular courts and jury trials. In a piece written by ABC Radio National by Fars Edraki and Kerry Phillips in Australia, said for decades, if you wanted a divorce in Australia, you had to prove your spouse was to blame. The grounds ranged from habitual drunkenness to adultery. In many cases, involved the use of privilege and private investigators. Some couples who privately agreed to separate would even have to stage adulterous trysts for later evidential use in court. This all changed in 1975 with the introduction of no-fault divorce and the family court system. Family law in Australia has come under intense scrutiny since then, with dozens of reports including a 2019 Australian Law Reform Commission review and more than 100 amendments to the Family Law Act. Now, this year it will be examined again. And in a joint parliamentary committee inquiry chaired by Kevin Andrews, they're going to look at once again because these things are completely unfair. So how did we get here? So I'll give you. Here's a short history of the growing need to regulate an ever-growing divorce culture and the destruction of the family for profit. It was said in the early part of the century that divorce can be emotionally and financially draining. So we took a moralistic approach from 1959 to 1975. Marriage and divorce remained state matters for the most of the 20th century. But in 1959, then Attorney General Sir Garfield Barwick of Australia introduced a federal law, the Matrimonial Causes Bill, stipulating 14 grounds for divorce. This included desertion, adultery, habitual drunkenness, cruelty, insanity, and imprisonment. You hire a private investigator to spy on your spouse. He would hang around outside the house, and then when the lights went out in the bedroom, he'd then knock, and the door would burst open with his camera and take pictures of the couple in compromising positions. The pictures would then be used in court as evidence of adultery. This desire to punish a party by attributing blame to the sinner was deeply rooted in religious principles and underpinning marriage at the time. It's a very moralistic approach to marriage, and one that by the middle of the 20th century was out of sync with the vast majority of the population. Now, Professor Swain says, which led to the push for reform from 1960 to 1975. With cultural and social change sweeping Australia in the 1960s, our conception of marriage also changed. And the same for the United States. There was a shift towards viewing marriage as a loving relationship. Moreover, there was a rise in de facto relationships. More and more people felt that marriage was no longer essential in order to affirm a relationship. The Whitlam government in power from 1972 proposed a series of social reforms including laws regulating divorce and parental custody. Here's where the problem happens. Now, at the time, Gough Whitlam's government established a Family Law Act. Now, the United States did follow suit. The notion of no-fault divorce had support from an eclectic range of organizations including divorce lawyers, who framed marriage as a contractual obligation both parties should be able to exit equally. And the Divorce Law Reform Association, Professor Swain, says that that association sounds neutral, but wasn't. It was in fact what we now recognize pretty much as the men's rights group. She says what they were resentful about was the amount of money going from husband to ex-wives that they thought should be coming into their families. But not everybody was in favor of the no-fault system. There's also a great amount of fear that women will be shortchanged by it because the vast majority of women still at this stage were not fully employed. And so marriage had been their career, Professor Swain says, not me. So there's a great push from feminist groups to be cautious about how you introduce the law and how you protect women are likely to be damaged by it, they say. Now, I might add here that there is no provision to protect men from it in this same law. These women expressed this fear that if no-fault divorce goes through as it was proposed, that women will be left high and dry and we will just be able to move freely from one marriage to another. But that law did not come to pass. The no-fault divorce in 1975. So, in 1975, the government passed a Family Law Act with a firm majority, 80 to 41 votes. The law introduced for the first time no-fault divorce. It also established a federal court to deal with family law issues, but getting back to the concept that a woman should be either enter or exit a relationship based upon happiness, in my estimation, is no more than a dizzy concept. It can hardly be said that men enter or exit marriage because they are happy, one way or the other. A boy is raised to please women in every capacity and to place his feelings and sense of happiness aside. He is taught to view taking care of a family as a sacred duty. In fact, if he does not take care of his family as a sacred duty, he is shunned in every society on earth. If he were to take off on that family because he was not happy, he would be looked down upon by his family and his community at large. For this reason, I doubt you will be able to convince a man that his wife left him because she was unhappy, especially because he would also have to be unhappy in that same relationship. Happiness is a good conversation for dating, but not a good basis for marriage or anything that lasts in a lifetime. When I used to counsel couples that look to me for happiness as the end all and be all, I would say that it is more of the pepper flakes in a bowl of grits. So you have to imagine pepper and grits. It is there, but far and few in between, and sometimes you have to strive for, leave the happiness as basis for living, something for theme parks, not for real life. So you see, the current divorce culture and her friends of women seek to convince her that she will get large sums of alimony or spousal support when she divorces. Now, they neglect to tell her that the reality of the situation on the ground is that this is mainly for the super rich and not for the super average. I'll give you an example from the fines law team. So, here's how the math works out in a typical alimony case. Imagine that a husband who files for a divorce earns $5,000 a month. His wife stays at home with 3 children and earns no income. Under the state's formula, she's entitled to $1,650 as child support per month. That's it. So when a married couple gets a divorce, the court may award alimony or spousal support to one of the former spouses, based either on agreement between the couple or decision by the court itself. This is separate from the division of marital property and is decided on a case-by-case basis. So there's no guarantee of riches by leaving a guy. Many people have questions about alimony versus child support as well. Alimony is different, I'm telling you guys, from child support payments because child support money can only be used for minor children while they are in the custody of the parent or care. So what is alimony? The purpose of alimony is to limit any unfair economic effects of a divorce by providing a continuing income to a non-wage earner or low-wage earner spouse. Part of the justification is that an ex-spouse may have chosen to forego a career to support the family and needs time to develop jobs to support themselves. It doesn't account whether she was a slob who just sat on the couch in your time and just rode life out. Now, another purpose may be to help a spouse continue the standard of living they had during their marriage despite changes to income taxes, bonuses, taxable income, tax returns, etc. You may ask, how is the amount of alimony, how is it determined? Unlike child support, which is most states is mandated according to various specific monetary guidelines, courts have broad discretion in determining whether to award spousal support, and if so, how much and for how long. The Uniform Marriage and Divorce Act, on which many state spousal support statutes are based, recommends that courts consider the following factors in making decisions about alimony awards. So notice to be a fact: the age, physical condition, emotional state, and financial conditions of the former spouses. The length of time the recipient would need for education or training to become self-sufficient. So it's designed today where you move off of support from your husband to support from yourself. The couple's standard of living during the marriage. The length of marriage and the ability of the pair spouse to support the recipient and still support himself or herself. So know this: you should not be fleeced to your last penny. It should make sense. Now, it's totally different than child support. On enforcement of alimony and support orders, although awards may be hard to estimate, whether the payer spouse will comply with a support order is even harder to gauge. Alimony enforcement is not like child support, I said, which has the teeth of wage garnishment, liens, and other enforcement mechanisms. The recipient could, however, return to court in a contempt proceeding to force payment. Because alimony can be awarded with the court order, the mechanism available for enforcing any court orders are available to the former spouse who's owed alimony. Now, how long must alimony be paid? For you guys who want to know, do I have to pay this woman forever? Now, alimony is often deemed rehabilitative, like I said, to help her move along. That is, ordered for only so long as is necessary for the recipient spouse to receive training and become self-supporting. If the divorce decree doesn't specify a spousal support termination date, watch out, fellas, the payment must continue until the court orders otherwise. So you must have that in there. Now, most awards end if the recipient remarries, so you have to find that out. Termination upon the payer's death isn't necessarily automatic. In cases where the recipient spouse is unlikely to obtain gainful employment, due perhaps to age, say she's an older woman, or health considerations, the court may order that further support be provided from the payer's estate or life insurance proceeds. So if you get married again, expect that could happen. Now, it says that alimony trends in the past, most alimony awards provided for payment to former wives by breadwinning former husbands. As the culture has changed in modern day, so that now most marriages include two-wage earners. Women are viewed as less dependent, and men are more apt to be primary parents. The courts and spousal support awards have kept pace, supposedly. More and more, the tradition of men paying and women receiving spousal support is being eroded, and that's good. And orders for alimony payments from ex-wife to ex-husband are on the rise, so they say. So tell me what you think about this video. Have you been through a divorce, or have you emerged from a divorce? Or have you struggled to get to see your children? Does she use your children as a tool? Does she dangle them in your face and won't let you see them? Do you have to go to court every time you want to spend time with your children? Tell us what you think. Give this video a thumbs up. Share it with your friend who's going through something like this, because we all need help. From the Men's Channel and Investigative Report, we thank you. Have a great day.
Every time I need that shit, devil make another.
Hey man, if you got something that you believe in and you believe that you can do it and nobody else do, just go for it. It's your life. My life is moving fast, I gotta slow it down. Yeah, now I got it, they all come around. But when I ain't have it, they nowhere to be found. Yeah, I had to stick with the ones who stay down. And now a lot of people say I changed on them, because I'm whipping in the range on them. I don't think I'm acting different, I just found out that these folks ain't in my interest. And you ain't got a lot of kick it. I messed around and pulled a whole foe up. Banging zero, I roll up. I don't do it, boy, you gotta grow up. My mom scared to believe me, I had to show her that I'm doing what my heart said I'm supposed to. I'm living my dream, I'm stacking my cheese